the audit level, that particular audit, which was this one next to the bottom, I can do a right swipe on it, and there's a delete button that shows up on that. So if you generated an audit and you didn't really mean to, you created a new one, you want to delete it, you can delete here as well. So I'm actually going to delete this, and the addition here is that it's going to ask you whether or not it's a local copy only, or you want to delete this and save it on, move it to Dropbox, and therefore save it on Dropbox. In this case, I don't want to save this deletion on Dropbox. The reason that you would move it to Dropbox is that if you ever think you're going to have to retrieve it, it puts it into a temporary folder that you can retrieve from. But I'm just going to delete this thing locally and get rid of it. And I'm going to go through and do this twice here for these two examples. So I'm going to delete, and those are my two sample audits that I talked about early on. And as I said early on, those are samples. You can retrieve them at any time. They're useful for training, or if you do want to do what-ifs. So I click in the upper left-hand side on the Setup button, Database, Import Sample Audits, the last item. And it will import those two sample audits again. And what we'll see is that those two sample audits that I just deleted, I just recovered, and they are here at the top. Oak Pasture Lane and Reeves Court. And you can do that all day long. And so that makes it real convenient for early training in particular.
And then I know you showed it once, but I think it's worth real quick showing everyone again how if you right swipe and it says delete and you're like, oh, I didn't want to do that, that you just click on the
anywhere. Click anywhere else on that object. So in this case, 1525 Reeves Court, I did a right swipe, I get a delete button. But then if I click over towards the left-hand side of that bar with the 1525 Reeves Court, the delete will go away.
I just wanted everyone to know so they're not like, oh, I don't want to delete it. What do I? So.
Yep. No, that's a very good point, because if you have, it's like a lot of these things that if you aren't used to mobile devices, a lot of these things I get kind of, familiar with because they're very similar on a lot of devices, but if you aren't used to doing that, then they're foreign to you.
Yeah. They get more and more intuitive the more you use them, but I just wanted to remind everyone, because I can see someone losing 10 minutes of their life stuck trying to figure out how to undelete, how to get out of that delete. So.
Exactly. So I'm going to show a couple other things while I'm on this page, and then I think we're going to end up breaking for lunch. So I did this page has 17 audits on it, and there's a menu at the upper right-hand side. I clicked on that. One of the items on that menu is Map. So I'm going to click on that, and you have a sub-menu which says First, All, or Selected. The first one is the first one on the list. All is all of them. Selected is the ones that I select to do something on, and I'll show that in a second. So I'm going to click All. And this will actually generate a map with all of the audits. Let me just resize it here.
Cool.
All of the audits that are on this list. And there's a bunch of them down here in this area.
This is so neat.
And then here's some in Washington. So those are the ones that have been done, and if you really want to know which one is which, if I click on one of those icons, it shows me the address and when it was scheduled to do. So this is particularly useful when you're scheduling and you want to see where do I have to go next. On the lower left-hand side, there's a Close button. I'm going to click on it, Close. So that was mapping all of them. Now I'm going to select a subset of that to map. So I'm going to click on the Select item next to the bottom, and it will show me a slightly different view of this page, which has checkboxes on the left-hand side. And I will go down to this particular set. So I'm going to just map those. Now if I say Map, it will map just the ones that are in that area. And you'll see that there are no others mapped. So you have some options there. I'm going to exit out of that and show one other mapping issue, and that is, let me get the right one here. So here is, I meant to get the first one, image. Okay, here's this house, and this, of course, you've been out there and you've taken this picture. But before you ever go out there, you can also take a look at Google and see whether or not there is a street view and take a look at that. So I'm going to go in here and map driving directions. And so map driving directions will give you a view of that location, and you can say that you want to go from here to there and get driving directions. Or if I click on the lower right-hand side where there's a kind of a person icon, this is Google. That's the street view from Google. So before I ever went out on site, I could have actually taken a look at this particular house to see, what kind of house is it? Where am I going? So we've tried to integrate into Google as much as we can so that we can take advantage of what Google offers as far as mapping and street views and allowing you to preview some things before you get out there. So what I've done here is I've switched from our application to, if you look across the top, you'll see this. I'm actually in the web browser. So in order to get back to my application, I click on the center button, which is a hard button in the center bottom of the iPad. I'll double click on it. And if you double click on it, it shows you what other applications are open. And the left, you'll see the most recent open one is miAudit ECNC. So the way that I switch quickly from one app to another, in this case from the web browser to our ECNC app, is double click on that center button. It'll show you what's open. I click on the ECNC and I'm back to where I was, back into the app that we're talking about. So that mapping feature is also a very useful one. You've set up an appointment or someone set up an appointment for you and you want to just preview where it's at and what you might be able to get out of Street View to see whether or not you're getting into a manufactured home or a single-story home or a two-story home.
We didn't follow that.
You didn't follow which part of it?
When you were on the Google image of that house and how you got back.
So, hey guys, do you see if you put your fingers around the edge of your iPad, you know that button that has a little bit of a depress? It's right in the middle of. Yeah. Okay, you feel that? Right. Click on. Center. Right. Click on that. Double click it.
If you double click it, you will get a bar at the bottom, as you see in the image now, that shows you what other applications are open, and the most recent one that was open is on the left-hand side, in this case, miAudit ECNC. So when you're, in order for this to, if you're trying to do this on your iPad right now, you have to leave the miAudit ECNC to be able to go back to it. So if I go to ECNC, which I am now, and I double-click, you'll see that it's not in the lower left-hand side because I'm already there. What it's showing me is Safari, which is a web browser. That's the last application that I was in. So it allows you to switch from one thing to another. I'm currently in miAudit ECNC, so it's not going to let me, there isn't an option to switch to it. I'm already there.
So you can all just really quickly, you can double click and you can go to your calendar or hit one of those other icons at the bottom, and then you can double click again and go right back to where you are now.
That is, again, one of the standard ways in which iPads work, but clearly if you aren't familiar with iPads and haven't done that, it takes a little bit of getting used to. But once you do, you'll find that it's actually very convenient and quick to be able to move, in this case, between Google and the miAudit. So I've run about 15 minutes over for this session. So I'm going to stop here. We will restart at in 45 minutes, basically, at 1 o'clock your time. I can stay on the line and answer other questions.
Yeah. Rich, this is Brian. I just have one question. Not everybody has to hear it, but I bought my own personal computer here.
Okay.
I've got it open to the regular audit page, and I'm clicking on it, but it won't. It'll highlight, but it won't take me to the details of the page. The list of audits. Yeah, the list. You know, I've got 17 audits, and I click on the oak pasture, but it won't take me to the details of the audit. Oops. Does that make sense?
I think so, but you are on an iPad, right?
Yes.
Okay. And will it not take you to any of those 17, or just
any of them? I can click on any of them. None of them open up.
Okay. So what I'd suggest is that you shut down the app and restart it. Unfortunately, you know, none of the operating systems are perfect, and I'm sure some of you have gone through this with your desktop computer where things start acting up, and typically the advice is to shut it off and restart it.
Yeah, I
so
tried
in this
that.
case,
Try it again.
I'm sorry?
I tried it earlier yesterday, but I'll try it again.
Well, there's two levels of shutting it off. And again, just like a desktop, you can turn off the application or you can turn off the whole device. So I would start by turning off the application. And the way that you would do that is to click on the button that we were just talking about, the one in the lower center. Click on it once. That will take you back to the screen like what I have on the display. And then double-click it.
Okay.
And now click and hold. Click and hold the miAudit ECNC.
Okay.
And you'll see that it kind of wiggles back and forth, and there's a minus sign. That will force that application to shut down. So if you click on the minus sign.
All right. I'm not getting the wiggling part for some reason.
You have to hold and hold it long enough so that
Everything
the
jiggles.
minus sign shows up. You're not getting.
Let's see.
So you should be able to click and hold. So you push down, but you never let up. You just hold it down.
Okay.
You're not getting that.
No.
We'll try it at lunch,
Yeah,
and we'll come back at 1 o'clock.
Okay. If that refuses to work, there may be some other issue, and I would say use the power button on the upper right hand to hold it down till you get a message on the screen that says, do you want to turn off? And then that turns off your whole device totally, and then again hit that power button on the upper right hand side after it turns off to turn it back on.
Okay.
So that's as deep a reset as you can do. Very similar to what you do on a desktop.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Good one.
Any other questions before I?
Yeah, Rich, this is Rob. I got one quick question.
Sure.
On the that you taken or showed, that two-column table that appears right underneath that, is that automatically filled out when you take the picture?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I'll come back to one of those pictures here. I think I know what you're referring to. So here's a picture, and I just navigated to it, and there's this in the middle of the page. There's a two-column out that is automatically filled in, and
Right.
that tells
Okay.
you that
Good.
this was a photo and the time that it was taken and the file format and file name.
Oh, okay. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. That's it.
Okay, great.
Thank
you. I will.
Can I ask
Go
you a
ahead.
question?
Sure.
I actually got a couple of things. One
Sure.
is,